Stay here, horse. I got this. No. Get me off. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Boom, baby. Oh. Hello, I'm Dan3152 and this is Cabbage Gaming. Today is the 4th day of the 5 Days of Smashmas, and the topic for today is what bosses I am most excited to fight. Now, in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, in the World of Light trailer that came out in early November, Nintendo announced that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is going to have an adventure mode, and in that adventure mode, they make the return of bosses. Now, I know bosses were in the Wii U version, but they weren't really boss battles. They were more like stage hazards that you could interact with, and they were still cool and all that, and I'm not denying that, and I'm not saying I don't like them, but I like the aspect in Brawl where you had one-on-one boss fights, or like 2-on-1 if you had a friend in the Subspace Emissary. And since boss battles are coming back, I figured that I would talk about for day 4 for the 4 bosses I want to fight that I've since Brawl came out. I've played many games because Brawl came out a long time ago, years ago, and in those years many games have come out. So, you know, when you play these games, you fight these bosses in the games. It's kind of natural if you're a Smash Bros fan to think, oh, it'd be amazing to fight that boss as this character, that character. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Number 4. For number 4, I decided with a Pokemon boss. And not just a Pokemon boss, I thought a legendary Pokemon would be best. Now, we have a legendary Pokemon in the roster already with Mewtwo, but Mewtwo's kind of to scale with all the other fighters. In Brawl, we got to fight Rayquaza, which was a huge legendary. And there was no fighter even close to his size, and Rayquaza would fly around the stage and go into the ground and attack, and he was of a Pokemon, he was probably the best one at the time that they could have used. But since then, other Pokemon have come out. Some of them I think would make really good boss fights. Mainly legendaries though. There are some Pokemon that are big enough to be regular boss fights, but I think legendaries kind of add the level of like danger to it. Since they're legendary, they're so rare, and hence they're so strong. So it kind of not intimidates the player, but it definitely tells the player that like this Pokemon is not going to be a pushover to fight, just like Rayquaza was. So for number 3, I chose a boss from the Legend of Zelda series. And now the Legend of Zelda series has been around for a long time, and there has been a lot of bosses. And at first I was just going to say, Breath of the Wild boss. But then you have to think about it, because the Breath of the Wild bosses, none of them are exactly, I don't want to say not memorable. They're memorable, but they're not really distinguished. They're all the same, they just have a different element that with their name. And their designs kind of vary a little bit. So it's hard for me to say like, oh, use the fire one, or oh, use the wind one. Because they all provide kind of the same amount of challenge. Now, there might be one more suited for Smash Brothers, but if you were going to include one from Breath of the Wild, it could be any of the bosses that guard the Divine Beast. You could also do like one of the bosses that you fight that are, some of them are optional. For example, the one you fight in the Sands of Gerudo. That one's a pretty cool one. That would be interesting to see on Smash Bros. Or maybe like the giant Cyclops looking bosses. Those would be interesting, and they're like the size suitable. Or it can be even a boss from Twilight Princess, or from Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. All of those bosses are of the size that would be needed for a boss. Now my number 2 pick is a Smash Brothers original boss. And when I say a Smash Brothers original boss, I mean, for example, Master Hand, Crazy Hand, the bosses from Subspace Emissary that didn't come from previous games, like the two-sided boss, the boss that was a tank and would transform, that you fight as like not Ness, that you fight as Lucas and Pokemon Trainer, and then Ike at some point. And the final boss that was colored and that was all different colors and had giant wings. All those bosses are amazing. They're great boss fights to do. So I think for Smash Bros. Ultimate, they need to kind of keep doing that. And the reason I think that we need another Smash Bros. Original boss is because of the concept that for a lot of games, they are memorable because of the boss battles that you have during them. For example, Ocarina of Time. I think one of the most memorable things about Ocarina of Time is all the different boss battles there are, and how like crazy and not extravagant, but like how well done they are. And it's like this huge dungeon with this giant monster, and you have to like outsmart it and battle it in order to go on to the next part. It's very memorable. And I feel like for Smash Bros. Ultimate being a new game, they need that same type of like big thing to keep them memorable. And some of them are returning. Like in the World of Light trailer, you could see that tank looking boss, and he was about to fight, I think, the Splatoon character. So most likely they'll bring, I'm hoping they don't just bring all of them back. We saw the Horde of Hands at the beginning of the trailer, and they were being controlled by this thing that attacked everyone. So that's for sure going to be a new Smash Bros. Ultimate boss. But I want to see another one, like maybe one other one. Number 1. Last but not least, I would like to see a boss from Mario. And from Mario, I'm mainly talking about Super Mario Odyssey, because that's the most recent game. It's a Switch game. It's a great game. And there were a lot of amazing boss battles. Now you're obviously not going to have like the last one with Bowser, because Bowser is a character and they're not going to do that. But there were other bosses, like in the Sand Kingdom, there was that one boss with the giant hands. And like even in Smash Bros, they could work out a mechanic where that boss, he throws the hands at you, and then if you reflect them, then they go back and hit him in the face, and then it does damage to him. You could do other ones like you do other bosses like the giant dragon you fight in there would be a cool boss. Maybe the lady with the giant chain chomp. The bunnies and the giant robot where you have to like climb up the robot and hit its weak spots. That would be a good one. It'd be a massive one, and you like if you hit the pods where the rabbits are, it does the most damage, and if you hit the rest of it, it does like minimal damage. Nintendo could work this out in their favor. It could be really cool. There's a lot of bosses in Mario Odyssey to choose from, or like for example, the worm that was on top of New Donk City. That was a really cool one. So yeah, I believe that a Mario Odyssey boss is the one. If I saw a boss from Mario Odyssey, I think that would hype me up the most. So that's why it's number 1 on my list. Well guys, that does it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what boss you want to fight the most, from what series, and why they would make a good boss fit. I want to hear y'all's opinions. Feel free to leave a like, a subscription, share with your friends if you enjoyed. I'd appreciate all of it. This is day 4 in Smashmas, so tomorrow's day 3. And Smash Bros. It's almost here. It's almost here.